thing that we see time and time again with top performers versus everyone else is the ability to get prospects to really open up. In fact, the data shows that the more a salesperson can get a prospect to actually talk, the more likely they are to actually close the sale. So having a bunch of quick sales questions to get your prospect to really open up and to really kind of let it out, the more you're going to be successful in any selling situation. So you want to have these quick little sales questions to just really be able to get the prospect to kind of unpeel themselves like an onion so you get to the core issue. Because every prospect will give you kind of the lead issue that they are facing or whatever it is, but they're often likely to not reveal the whole challenge unless you're able to really get them to reveal and share what's actually going on. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 quick sales questions to get any prospect to open up. Check it out. Number 1, quick opening play. So in the Sales Insights method, we teach a concept called your opening play, which is instead of like your elevator pitch or your 30-second commercial, our goal is really to just get the prospect to start talking, to share what the challenges are that they're facing. And so a quick opening play is basically sharing the 3 top challenges that you typically see amongst your prospects, and then use that to engage them with something like, do any of those issues ring true to you? So having your quick opening play, the 3 top challenges that you see, and then do any of those issues ring true to you, gets the prospect to really move in the direction that you want. Because we don't want to be talking about benefits or your offering or the features of what you do. What we really want to do is understand the challenges that the prospect is really facing. Number 2, tell me more about that. So this technically isn't a question, which I know people in the comments are always going to make a point about. But the idea here is that when a prospect tells you something that's noteworthy, don't just leave it at that. Right? A lot of times there's so much more there if we just prompt them. So this is a classic therapist question where we just say, tell me more about that. And of course, you've got to say it with the right tonality and you don't want to sound like a goofball. But if you just say something like, wow, that's really interesting, tell me more about that, they're going to open up and dig so much more deeply than they otherwise would have. Because most salespeople, when a prospect says something like, yeah, revenues have been way down this year, most salespeople are like, oh yeah, I've heard that from a lot of different people. We can really help you with that. But instead, if you say, well, I appreciate you sharing that, tell me more about that. Now, they're going to really divulge what's actually going on. That's the good stuff. Number 3, why do you think that is? So again, this is a simple question. There's no magic to this question, but what you're going to do is you're going to get the prospect to reveal why they think something is happening. So again, if we use that example of revenues have been down this year, most salespeople immediately use that as a way to parlay into their pitch. Instead, what we want to do is get the prospect to share, like, why do they think it's happening? So something along the lines of, oh, I really appreciate you sharing that. Why do you think that is? Gets the prospect to, again, start to even answer questions that they may not have even thought about, right? This is a powerful thing because you're putting the burden on them to share why they think the problem is happening, as opposed to you having all this pressure to immediately solve. That gets the prospect not only to think about things that they hadn't thought about before, but it also gets them to think about the real value and what's really happening. Number 4, what prompts you to say that? So the question of what prompts you to say that is so powerful because it can be used in so many different scenarios in a sales conversation. It could be used in a moment where a prospect says something that is noteworthy. It could be in a situation where a prospect actually asks you a question that you're not really sure why they're asking. You can use it in so many different scenarios. And again, you may want to soften it with the beginning where it might be like, hey, I really appreciate you saying that. What prompts you to say that? Or I really appreciate that question. What prompts you to say that? Right? And so what you're doing is, again, you're putting the ball back in their court to really articulate why they said something in the first place or why they think something is happening. By really getting them to start to think through why they're saying or asking something, you're taking a lot of pressure off of yourself and you're putting it back on them. This is the jujitsu of sales. They're going to do one thing and you're going to use that momentum to go in the direction that you want. Number 5, why is that? I love this question so much. It's so simple and it's so basic, yet it can be used constantly with a prospect, because prospects are telling you things, and oftentimes they haven't fully processed what the challenges that they're facing or the objectives or the goals are. So it's like if a prospect says, yeah, we're looking to increase sales by, 21% this year. Oh, really interesting you say that. Why is that? Right? And then they dig into that. Well, last year we did this. And so as a result, it's like, we don't want to just take what a prospect says at face value and then go into our pitch. What we want to do is get them to keep opening up, right? Prospects are that onion that you can continue to peel back and peel back and peel back until you get to the core. And so these little simple questions that you're probably thinking like, why is that? That's the only question, right? But if you just ask that all the time, or even why, right? Just the question of why. Oh, that's a really interesting thing you say. Why is that? You're going to get so much great stuff that 95% of salespeople simply aren't going to get because they wouldn't have thought to ask in that really kind of simple, basic way and slow down the conversation to understand what's most important. So there are 5 quick questions to get any prospect to open up. And if you enjoyed this video, then I have an amazing free training on the step-by-step formula to close more deals. Just click right here to get registered instantly. Seriously, just click right here. This is an in-depth training that will help you close more deals at higher prices, all while generating more meetings. Also, if you got some value, please like this video below on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking my face, which should be right about here, to get access to a new video just like this one each week.